All right. Well, I thank you so much for being here today. This is the statewide book study on specially designed instruction, Increased Success for Students with Disabilities by Ann Benninghoff. And I just want to say thank you again. I know that it's a long day for you when you've been working all day with kids and doing all the things that you do, and then showing up for professional development after the fact. So I thank you for that. My name is Dina Smith, and I'm with the WDE on the Continuous Improvement team. And I'm really honored to be your facilitator throughout this book study on SDI. The purpose of this book study is really to bring all of you educators together to help collaborate and analyze and just improve practice. I know that there's many different ways that we like to learn, and for many of us, book studies are just one of those ways. And so I thank you for joining us. We had an overwhelming response to this book study this year, over 325 now. And so I had hoped to be able to do some of the typical ways, but we didn't want to shut it down and have anybody miss out. And so the sessions will be webinars. There will be just some different things. We'll have you participate in some different ways, but to be able to offer this to this many people and to be able to get the book out to as many as we did, we've had to move it to this format. We have really focused heavily on providing professional development on specially designed instruction throughout this school year. We just finished up a 3-part series with Dr. Tessie Bailey, and I do have links in this presentation, and I'll send it in a follow-up email so that you have them in an email as well. She did a fabulous job on the 3 different parts of SDI. And again, those will be available to you. The recordings and the materials will be available to you. The other thing that we're going to be doing that will be new this year, we're instead of doing a large, widespread conference, we're going to do a SPED conference that will focus more intensively in a workshop model on SDI, and that will cover academic, functional, behavior, all of the areas. And so we will be watching for more information on that. We'll be sending out some save the dates and the invites for that and registration. All right. So here's our outline. I know that has already been sent out, so I won't go over that too much in depth, but this is our introductory meeting. And so today will not be, I know that some of you did not receive the book, and so we wanted to just give kind of an overview. I know that we have a wide range of expertise and experience here on this meeting today. And for that reason, we really wanted to go over some of those parts, those foundational parts of SDI and IDEA. So what you can expect throughout this book study, this book is a wonderful roadmap. I love to call it that because it truly is just a great resource guide. There's all the answers to the FAQs. What is SDI? Who's responsible? How do we make it happen? The thing I love best about this is, as a former educator, there's so many practical examples in here that literally you can turn around next day and use in your classroom. And so I'm really excited for you to be able to dig into this book. I know I've been already receiving emails. Many of you already have been diving into the book, and it is exciting. It's a very quick read, but I really want you to, instead of skimming, take time if you can to really go through and pay attention to all of those chapters as we go through the book. We will not have time to read the book. We're only together for an hour. So you'll be reading on your own, and that will be part of your contact hours. And you'll have to show that you've read the book by the end of this if you're seeking PTSB or STARS credit. And I'll talk a little bit more about that right here. So if you are seeking PTSB credit or STARS, you do need to participate in the live virtual sessions because you would be, getting 7 hours of contact time and earning a half credit, or 7.5 hours for stars. And so there will be an attendance form that will be provided at the end of each session, which will be live again. So you'll have to fill that out at the end of the session in order to receive credit for that. We can go on and verify that attendance, and PTSB does require that we do that. So we will be, needing to make sure, but the form will definitely help us in making sure with this many people that we have everybody and didn't miss anyone. There will be also an option for a certificate of attendance. If you're needing something like that, maybe for an administrator, or maybe you want to collect this and you want to, you would have enough if you do attend all sessions. If you are not able to attend all sessions and you would like a certificate of attendance for the ones that you are able to attend, then you can collect those until you have received your 7 hours. So if you have further questions, just feel free to email me on that one. So I am happy to introduce you to the author, Anne Benninghoff. She has retired, and so I cannot introduce you to her virtually or in person at this time, but just know that she has definitely had over 40 years of experience as a special educator. She was an adjunct faculty member at University of Harvard and University of Colorado. She is definitely an internationally recognized consultant and trainer. She's authored now more than 13 books, blogs, podcasts, and educational videos. And her teaching and presenting and writing and really does focus on those creative, practical solutions for more effectively including students with diverse learning needs, especially in those general education classrooms. Within this book that you're going to be reading, Anne offers a multi-step guide to help us develop a systematic plan for SDI implementation. And that, to me, is one of the most beautiful parts of this book, like I said earlier, are those practical examples. And it really is that it's just a guide, a multi-step guide. So I hope that you'll enjoy it as much as I have. Today, we're going to go over the 6 guiding principles of IDEA. We're going to make sure we define specially designed instruction. Unfortunately, sometimes there's so many different phrases that we use and terms that we use that help to support SDI. And so sometimes it gets really muddy. So we're going to define specially designed instruction. And you'll see some of those things at the bottom there, determining the differences like explicit instruction and high leverage practices. So we'll get going on that here in just a second. So I have a quick poll. I'm going to see if I can get this. Hold on one second. All right, we'll go ahead and launch that poll. Are you guys able to see that?
Yes.
I'll give you just a minute or two to go ahead and get this poll, and I'll just watch to see as we get up to a percentage before I end it. All right, we're slowing down quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share it. So you should be able to see here, of course, as I figured, we have mostly special education teachers. We do have some general ed teachers. Thank you so much for being here. We have some administrators or directors, paraprofessionals, and other maybe service-related people or others. And so looks like we have the majority is K through 5, but we do have some middle school, pre-K, high school, and then some serve all levels. And then that's great. There's 44% of you know a moderate amount about SDI. Some have some details. Actually, no one said I don't know anything about SDI, so that is wonderful to hear. And then I have, looks like one person is an expert, so I'd love to talk to you to team up. So thank you for doing that. I think it's just really helpful to see who the audience is and to know how to move forward. As we talked about, some of those acronyms, if it's used with EI, it's going to be explicit instruction. HLPs are high leverage practices, intensive intervention, II, and then of course MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, and SDI, specially designed instruction. Many times, there's so many acronyms that we use, and if you're a new teacher or new to special education, I think it becomes really daunting to keep up with all of the acronyms that we use. So as we see here, since 1975, the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, special education has been defined as specially designed instruction. So those go hand in hand. And you see here, I'm not going to go through all of the regulations, but know that it says special education means specially designed instruction at no cost to the parents to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability, including the instruction that's conducted in the classroom and other settings. And so part of that, what specially designed instruction means, is that adapting part to the content, the methodology, or the delivery. And as we see here, it is definitely to address the unique needs. Those are, I'm the one who bolded those, so those are not bolded in your regs, as you probably know. And then we do that to ensure access of the child to the general education curriculum. And that's really important too, because sometimes we think that that this means something different if they're in special education. It does not. They still have that right to have access to the general ed curriculum. So as we go through this, this is actually found in your book. If you see page numbers, these quotes actually come from the book. And she just said, in order to have the best specially designed instruction for students with disabilities, we need to begin with imagining it. What does it look like? What is the foundational framework? And how might we break this down so that the pieces are manageable? You know, this is really important because I feel strongly that if we don't plan, we're going to fail to plan. You know, we're going to plan to fail. And so I think it's really important, not just the planning piece, but can we even imagine what it should look like for our students with disabilities? So as we get started here, I have kind of a little game that we're going to do here called What Do We Know About Specially Designed Instruction? And if you would like to, you can put it in the Q&A if you want to answer. If you don't, just put it in your mind as we go through these questions and think of the answer, and then the answer will come in the next slide so that you know the answer. But I think it's, I just want to, it's a fun little thing to see, like, and if there's something that you're like, I really don't know much about what that is, or I don't know if I agree, then jot it down. Make some notes. I hope that you have a paper and something to write with as we go through this book study. As we move into the book study, I am going to ask that you guys have access to an IEP so that you can take a look at it and see maybe what the specially designed instruction is. Is it evident that it's in the IEP, right? So as we get going, we'll go through that. So here's the first one. Our school provides differentiated instruction for all students. So is SDI still needed then? What do you guys think? I'm seeing a lot of yeses, thumbs up. You are correct. Yes, SDI is still needed. Differentiated instruction is in a general ed setting, right? Good job. Here's our next one. Special education is a place where instruction occurs. Is that a yes or no? This one is a no. Special education is not it is a service. It's not a place. So services are actually portable. There's no special education. It can be delivered to the student in any setting, right? That's been determined by the IEP team. Can SDI be implemented without an individualized education program or IEP? This one is no. The reason for that is SDI is part of the IEP. To be eligible for specially designed instruction, a student must have an IEP and receive special education services. Specially designed instruction is what a student does. Is that a thumbs up, thumbs down? I love the faces like that. You are right. That is a no. Specially designed instruction is what the teacher does, not what the student does. The amount of specially designed instruction can be changed by a teacher. I'm seeing some mixed answers there. The answer to this one is no. This is an IEP team decision. The special education teacher designs it, but the amount of SDI cannot just be unilaterally changed by the teacher. An intentional decrease in pacing is likely to be an example of adapted delivery. I threw this one in just to see what you knew already about SDI. This will definitely be something that we're going to learn as we go. But for those who said yes, you are correct. Yes, it is an example of adapted delivery. Slowing it down and in our pacing so that that student who needs extra time to learn, that's definitely an adapted delivery. The amount of specially designed instruction is determined by staffing and or scheduling. Good job. Yeah, definitely not. SDI is always determined by the individual needs of the student. We can't say, well, sorry, we don't have the staff, or, well, we only do that for 30 minutes. Reading time is only 30 minutes, Monday and Wednesday. We can't, it has to be based on the individual needs of that student. And then our HLPs, SDI, EI, and II, the same thing. I think we kind of covered that a little bit. That one is definitely no, they are not the same thing. But you would be surprised at how many times they get used interchangeably and people think that they're the same. So we know that SDI is based on student need and that it starts with a team. We know that we have to have a comprehensive evaluation and ongoing review of data. Sometimes we think we've seen times where there's an evaluation done and then we see new needs arise, but there's nothing that has shown that anything has been addressed for those those new needs. And so make sure that we're going back, that ongoing review of data and, looking to see if there are other things, present levels of need. That's, there's a reason why it says present levels. And then, of course, the team determines that amount of type, frequency, duration of specially designed instruction. This is just a quick overview, especially for those who might not be as familiar with IDEA. There are 6 guiding principles of IDEA that you see here. IDEA is in the middle. And IDEA is Individuals with Disabilities and Education Act. And so when you see FAPE, and it'll go into here just a second what that is, but free and appropriate public education. You see that in order to receive that, you have to have an appropriate evaluation. Then there's an IEP developed, LRE, which is least restrictive environment, and that parents and student participation has to be there in order to have a FAPE offering. And then those procedural safeguards are the rights of the parents and students. In order to be eligible for a disability, an IDEA disability, they first must qualify under one of those 13 IDEA disabilities, right? And then sometimes we forget about this part. They must require special education and related services as that result of the disability to benefit, to have educational benefit. And so if both of those prongs are there, then a child would qualify under IDA eligibility. Otherwise, if they just have a disability and they need accommodations, many of you probably already know, they could qualify for a 504. And again, here's just that part. If there is no educational need and they are not impacted adversely by their disability, this just goes through and talks about there is no need for special education, but they could qualify for a 504. This is just that breaks it down for FAPE, free, appropriate, public, and education. Just for time, I won't go through this directly, but these slides will be available to you, so you can go back and go through those at your leisure. I do want to take just a second and talk about the FAPE continuum, though, because as we talked about, this really is a continuum, as you see here. This is provided to us by Pangora Consulting. And I love this visual because it really does show you we're starting right here. We're starting at the comprehensive evaluation. We do need to have an understanding of those present levels. If we don't have an understanding of present levels, really any part of those other sections or links would be broken, because how can we develop a program, an appropriate program for a student, unless we have an understanding of where they really are? And to make sure that we're looking at the whole child, we need to look at that evaluation wheel that we've shared many times. If you don't have a copy of that and would like it, I don't think I added it to this presentation, but I'd be happy to share it with you. It really does go through and make sure that we're addressing all of those needs and evaluating the needs that we suspect might be part of the child's disability. So then we look at that and those translate into educational needs. And then we are writing our IEP goals, of course, that are rigorous but reasonable. And we are writing those to address the skill gaps. Of course, we are using those standards to do that, but our goals focused on closing those skill gaps. Is it evident of what they're trying to do to close the gap? That is where the specially designed instruction is going to come in to help support that, along with their services and supports. And then in the least restrictive environment, this is a mandate that of course, we always start. I do have a slide here in a second that will talk about the least restrictive environment. But of course, all of these things in place, the end result is we want that student to make progress towards closing the gap to their same age peers on their grade level, right? To the best of their ability. All right, this just is going to go through a little bit about the IEP and what's involved in that. So some of these I'm going to just click through so that we can get to some of these other parts. The least restrictive environment, we do want to make sure that that to the best of their ability, that they are able to be educated alongside their same age peers, shoulder to shoulder, as much as they can. And as we see here, the three maximums are to the maximum extent appropriate. Children with disabilities are provided supplementary aids and services to help them be educated. And then you'll see here the other ones here, the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities are educated with children who are non-disabled. Again, that's in their gen ed classroom most of the time, to the best of their abilities. And then extracurricular activities are also included in that. And this will just give you that LRE continuum. We always want to focus on the regular classroom first and take a look at that to see if they're able to do that. And then it moves on from there. this is a continuum, of course. Just because they might be in a special class today doesn't mean that they will have to be in a special class, you know, in a few months or whatever it is that the team determines. This is why we're constantly taking data and reviewing these things to ensure that the child is, you know, that we're not holding them back. Sometimes they get placed and we think that that's where they have to be for that whole year while the IEP, but you know, the IEP is a fluid document that can be changed and amended throughout that annual time. All right. Parent participation. I just really want to encourage you to make sure that you are offering the parents an opportunity to not just participate, but meaningfully participate, right? We want to make sure that they feel heard, that we are listening to the things that they have to say and some of their requests. It doesn't mean that they would be able to dictate what happens. We are, you know, it's called an IEP team for a reason. And of course, when it's appropriate that those students are participating, when they become transition aged, they should be invited to their IEP as appropriate, and definitely have a voice in what happens there. It's amazing when we have them participate in their IEPs. And then procedural safeguards. I've just provided the link here for both the safeguards and in Spanish, so you have a copy of that handy if you need it. As we know, all IEP decisions should be based on educational need. And as we see here, you know, one of those questions that we talked about schedules, but it also should never be driven by cost, location, our preferences as adults, and our schedules. And so I know that, you know, it becomes really tricky sometimes, especially with staff shortages and, you know, the different things going on that we have going on in education. But in IDEA, we have to figure it out, right? Because these kids have a right to it. So, and if you are struggling with that, reach out, because there's many of us here to help and help figure out ways that those things can be done. We just have to sometimes think outside the box. So this is going to be one of the pieces that you'll see in one of those handouts. I do know that some of the handouts, some of you weren't able to open them. They are through Google, and so maybe, I don't know if there's a block through your firewall, but I will send them in as PDFs in a follow-up email, so you'll have access to those. You did not need those for today's session. Moving forward, if there's something that you're going to need ahead of time to be prepared along with the reading, I will send that in an email so you have it ahead. But as you see here, you know, we talked about UDL, that Universal Design for Learning, differentiated instruction, MTSS, and then SDI. And Anne she actually has a quick video that I'm going to just go ahead and play so you can hear it right from her. But you can see here in this outer circle, Universal Design for Learning it encompasses all, right? And SDI is that really small amount. Of course, not many of our students would be receiving SDI, but all of these other things, the MTSS, differentiated instruction, and the Universal Design for Learning, our students with disabilities should have access to all of these things, right? Because they would be happening whether they're in the gen ed setting or in some sort of intervention. They're still able to receive that, but that's not their SDI. So anyway, we'll hear from Anne here. Hopefully this works. We tried it out earlier. We'll see.
Hi, Anne Benninghoff here, back to talk with you briefly about specially designed instruction. I often get asked the question, you know, what's the difference between specially designed instruction and differentiation, or between SDI and UDL? All these terms in education, it's no wonder that we get confused from time to time. So I want to share with you a way that I think of it visually, kind of in a visual graphic format, to help us understand these things in context. So if you think about four concentric circles, In the outermost circle, I would place UDL, Universal Design for Learning. This is what we're thinking of when we're trying to create this atmosphere, this environment that is universally accessible for all students. And it is a lofty goal. We're trying to provide it to all kids. And it is actually a general education practice. And so for the best for all students, we'd want all general education classrooms to be providing universal design for learning. Within a general ed classroom that is doing UDL practices, we will also see differentiated instruction. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of what are students, a specific student's preferences, how does that student perhaps learn best, what's their learning profile, what's their readiness level on any given day. And based on all of that, we're going to differentiate for general ed, any student that's in the classroom. And then for some students, actually for all students, we go to MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, or what some districts call RTI, response to intervention. And the first level, first tier, is high quality, good instructional practices in the general ed classroom. So that's accessible to all students. But then for some students, we realize that they may need to have a little bit more intervention, and we'll go into tier 2 or tier 3 to provide more intensive interventions for them. And all students have access to that. And then finally, we have some students in a classroom who may have a disability that warrants receiving IEP goals. And if we have that student, then they receive specially designed instruction. But they are eligible for all of these other things too, and would be receiving all of those things. So the only students in this big general ed classroom that receive SDI and UDL and DI and MTSS are those students with disabilities. The good news, though, is, as we talked about in one of my other videos, that we do also have some incidental benefit that might apply to the rest of the class. And so check out the video on incidental benefit as well. I hope that helps to put it all in context for you, and we will see you next time.
All right. So hopefully that will help a little bit to explain.
Oh, hi, Ann Benning.
Oh, there we go. I don't know why the videos do that. This is another just graphic for you to maybe break it down a little differently, because Ann didn't go through some of these pieces. This is actually taken from a research paper that was done, a research study that was done called Big Ideas in Special Education. That is one of your links that you have, and it was just a great article. Started out by some educators, both general ed, special educators, curriculum directors who went to a conference and started learning about some of these things and realized that they really didn't understand what the differences were. And so I love this graphic because it really does just kind of give you a nice overview of what those differences are. The high leverage practices, there's 22 of those, and explicit instruction happens to be one of those HLPs. I believe it's number 16. And so as you go through this article, there's some really great things in there as well. So just wanted to provide as many resources as we can for you, so that you can, it will be an additional resource to the book for you. This is found in that same article. They realized as they were going through here that it takes all of those things to really provide good specially designed instruction. We're using intensive instruction by the dosage and complexity of it, and we're scaffolding and using explicit instruction. We are considering our students' needs, and whether it's memory deficits, whether it's just any kind of strategic part that they're struggling with, we really do need to consider all of those things in order to provide the best SDI for them to make progress. As we go through, you're going to see the different elements of SDI. If you joined Dr. Bailey's sessions, she talked a lot about these three things: the The content is the what, the methodology is the how, and then the delivery of instruction is, of course, the who, where, and when. And so all of these different things are part of SDI, and there's going to be some questions, some guiding questions as you go through these. You know, are adaptations needed for the content as a result of the disability? Is the content aligned to the student's academic and functional needs and grade level standards? Does the content address engagement and behavioral supports? I know right now this is a huge part of it. And as you go through, you know, there should be some different things, whether there's academic or behavior, you know, there's should be a fluid part to that, because behavior and academics go hand in hand, as we know. Does content address engagement and behavior? Does the actual content address it? How can we leverage the student's strengths and current knowledge as we identify the content that will be provided? And then this is really important. What's the evidence base for the proposed practices? Are we just trying to pick what to do based on what we think, or are we actually using evidence-based practices? And then these guiding questions, I will, they're in the book, but I will also post those as we go through, or as I send the follow-up email. I won't take time to go through all those today. But I think it really is important as we go through and look at that, as you start pulling up an IEP to look at, as you're reading through the book or coming to these sessions and start thinking about your own SDI, it really does help to break it down and to go through some of those to see, am I really doing all those pieces? Honestly, I would venture to say that a lot of you are, and might just be missing a part or two as we look at it. But it really is helpful. And then once you get the hang of doing that, it just becomes second nature. So our next session together is going to be on February 18th. And it's going to be that introduction and part 1 on envisioning SDI. So if you can make sure that you read up to page 45 and have access to at least one IEP, I think it's really going to be helpful as we go through this journey together. And I'm going to try to come up with some ideas of how to have us share ideas with one another and have some sort of a discussion as we can go through these webinars. It's going to be a little different. But I think it is important that we have an opportunity to have a bit of a discussion. And definitely, if there are questions that you have, feel free to send those over, and we'll start putting those in a document and see what we can get back to you, and as a whole group, because I'm sure if you have the question, many others might have the same question. But I think the biggest thing is, as we go through this, make sure that you are prepared with the reading ahead of time, so that you know what we're talking about when we go through some of these slides and some of these topics. And I am going to be sharing those extra resources. Like I said, Dr. Bailey's training is available on the Wyoming Instructional Network. The recordings and materials are there for all 3 sessions. We also have, well, this is the link there, and I'll try to put it in the chat as well, so you have it right away, but excuse me, otherwise I will send it in a follow-up email so you can click on it. These were absolutely wonderful. Dr. Bailey did a wonderful job of giving great practical use for each part of the SDI. We also have some modules on the Wyoming Department of Education's website. And these are, this is the link here to get in directly to SDI. When you get in, you're going to need to enroll to be able to get to the course. And then once you enroll in that course on Canvas, you will then be able to get in there and pick your session or your module that you want to take. We actually have these 4 modules that are available right now. The first one is on individualized education program, and it goes into detail about IEPs, special education law. And then, of course, there's an SDI series, and it goes into more detail about SDI there, and then the special education process. So I would definitely encourage you to check these out if you haven't done so already. And I feel like the more that we can all continue down this journey together and learn more about specially designed instruction, it's just going to be so much better for our students and for our families. These are just some of the resources that you'll see there along some of those pieces that there is another video here on, this is Ann Benninghoff's, that last one on SDI, what is it and why do we provide it? So if you want to go check that one out when you have a moment. This is a direct link also to that article that I was talking about, the big ideas in special education. But again, I just want to say thanks. Looks like we've actually ended a little bit early today, which will be great for you guys, right? I do want to talk to you though about attendance. I know that some of you have said that there are several of you who are meeting together in groups in your school. That is totally fine. You do not need to be, logged in separately to be able to get credit. But there is going to be an attendance form, and this is here on your screen. You can use this QR code. You can also use the link, and I will put that in the chat here. Let me get this form or get this link, and I'll put it in.
Dina, I've got it.
Okay. This will be required for you to be able to get either PTSB or STARS credit. If you're not concerned about that, don't worry about, you don't have to fill this out. Unless if you're wanting a certificate of attendance only, you still need to fill it out though. And it will definitely help us to be able to sort it out and to get you what you're trying to receive in credit wise, or like I said, just a certificate. So I'm going to leave this up for a bit. I know that this is an important part to many of you, especially if you're educators. And so again, thank you so much for your time. This one was just kind of an introductory one to make sure we're all on the same page, to know the foundation of IDEA and how it links to specially designed instruction, which is really an important part of what we do, right? It is the reason of what we do. And so thank you so much for being here. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Yes, Gail.
Tina, I just want to reiterate, some people are saying, I posted the links into the chat again, but there's that, you need to request access. So we will be sending, I apologize for that. There's a weird permissions thing that got flipped or something. We'll be sending to each of you right after this session, one that you can open with just the link. So just hang on a few minutes and we'll get that to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do see a question in here. Can you get dual credit for STARS and PTSB? Yes, you can. The only time you can't, the two that you can't get dual credit is if you're wanting PTSB and UW, University of Wyoming credit, they won't allow that. You have to choose. But yes, you can get STARS and PTSB credit simultaneously.
Oh, Dina, she's saying, can you go back one slide to the resources page? She wants to look at that if
sure,
you could do that.
Let me pull this up really quickly. And I will be sending these slides out, so you'll have access to those as well. I believe everybody should have their book by now. If you did not receive your book yet, please let me know, and I'll have Jennifer see if she can track it down for you. I did send out a packet of some pages for you so that you don't miss out on anything if you did not receive your book yet, so that you can begin reading for, I know that this next time will just be a week away, so but you should have received that already so that you have that packet. And that does cover up to page 45 for you.
Dina, there's a question. If we have to miss a class, can we watch the video after? I got stuck in a meeting today and missed most of today. I think what she's asking is, can they still get credit if they don't attend the live sessions?
So we've actually had conversations with PTSB about that, and in order to receive the credit, there has to be those contact hours. And so with the recording, there's no way. Yeah, there's no way for us to be able to check on that and to verify. Yeah, if you'll send it to me in an email, Dr. Simpkins-Harris, if you'll send me that in an email that you didn't receive your book, that would be helpful so I can forward that on. And Ashley, I'll write it down and go back and make sure that I have you on the registration list. I just sent out like an hour and a half before we started today. I resent the information. So if you didn't get that, I'll make sure that you're in there correctly.
Christina, no, you won't have to return the book if you decide to not go for the credit. That's okay. And you're more than welcome. I mean, these are recorded. These will be recorded and posted. So you're more than welcome to attend when you can or view it later. It's just that you won't be able to get the PTSB credit.
Yeah. No, you definitely would not need to return the book. We are just grateful that so many of you are interested. It's, again, it's a great book for resource, or, to be able to go back and refer to. It's a great reference guide.
Did you answer the one? Can you explain what STARS credit is?
I did not see that one. STARS is for early childhood. So if you are in a child development center, or even in, in an elementary school, and you're working with early childhood, you could receive STARS credit for this as well. It's basically PTSB for early childhood.
Right.
And I see, Melissa, you received 2 books. You're welcome to send it back, but if you know someone that could benefit from this training, feel free to go ahead and give it to someone who could use it. I know that when registration went out, sometimes we tried to delete all of the duplicate registrations, and some we missed. So yeah, if maybe there was a little tweak in like the email or the address, maybe it didn't get caught in time and you got a second book, so feel free to share. And then UW credit, this did not go out for UW credit. Any other questions that I can help with for now? Again, if you are seeking that credit, just make sure you get your name and email and all of those questions answered in the form so that we can keep track of that. And it looks like Dr. Simpkins-Harris, it looks like your hand's raised. I'll go ahead and unmute you if you'd like to just ask your question.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize my hand was raised. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. I'm going to go back to that form just so if anybody else needed it for attendance.
Okay.
Again, these slides will be shared in that follow-up email. Also, when you go to the Wyoming Instructional Network, if you've never been there before, when you go to view Dr. Bailey's sessions, those are going to be on that front page on the Waves session, on the Waves page. But at the bottom of that, you're going to see other resources, like previous resources. When you click on that link, we have a plethora of other training that you are welcome to go and view. There's recordings, there's handouts, there's lots of different topics for you to go in and just peruse at your leisure. And you can use it for training opportunities. You can use it for your own professional development. Again, these would not be for credit, as these were previous trainings, but they are there for you to be able to view. And if you're talking about the Wyoming Instructional Network, the link there, I will have it in when it talks about where Dr. Bailey's trainings were, there's a link there, and I'll make sure it's clear in the follow-up email so that you can have that. And WAVE, we will have a new teacher boot camp this year. It will be July 29th. And then July 30th and 31st will be the SPED conference. That will be, again, more that intensive workshop. We are looking for that to be in Cheyenne this year. And more information to come. As soon as we get that nailed down, I will be sending that out right away. So be watching for that.
And everybody, we didn't say it, but everyone is free to go unless you have any more questions for us.
Yeah. Thank you again. Gail, thank you so much for your help and support.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dina. Thanks, Jen.
Did we shut the recording off?
No, I didn't.
Let's see.